Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live. More news up here at Desawe Kanda. Also live on 3FM 92.7 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also listen to us on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Also all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. This evening, Chief Justice nominee Gertrude Tukono approved by consensus as minority resolves to back her nomination despite their reservations about her role in the Supreme Court decision annulling the Asin North elections. This evening, we hear the reason the minority softened its stance on the Chief Justice nominee. Also, defeated opposition MPs in the recently held parliamentary primary say they are forging ahead to ensure elected candidates retain their seats come December 7, 2024. Also, the Ghana Social Development Outlook report predicts a shortfall in labor supply and productivity by 2040 due to declining fertility rates. We'll bring you details of these plus business, sports, and entertainment coming up over the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Welcome. And stay with us here on Hot Edition. Also, we have the latest from the Peace Council initiating processes to resolve the Archbishop Charles Ajinasari and the Nogokpo impasse. Stay with us. We'll bring you details of that, plus the latest in the happenings on the first day of Parliament resumption today. Stay with us as the minority in Parliament says it will back the approval of Chief Justice nominee Gertrude Tukono. The decision, according to the NDC MPs, is based on evidence of competence on the part of the nominee, despite reservations about her role in the recent Supreme Court judgment, which affirmed the annulment of the 2020 Asin North parliamentary election. The minority side on the Appointments Committee of Parliament put on hold their approval of Justice Tukono, insisting they would wait for the written judgment of the Apex Court. Speaking on behalf of the caucus, Boko Central Member of Parliament and a member of the Appointments Committee of Parliament, Mahama Yariga, said despite their reservations, they will not hold back her appointment and in fact have decided to back her appointment as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana.
If even we admit that there should be some housekeeping matters at the point of filing nomination papers, that should be the appropriate province of legislation and not judicial enactment. What they did was to enact laws, the Supreme Court, not to interpret the text of the Constitution of Ghana. James Jachikwesin is gearing up to contest the by-election in Asin North, which has been brought about by the Supreme Court's decision. In that regard, we, the members of the Appointments Committee representing the National Democratic Congress, NDC, will not withhold our approval of the Chief Justice nominee by consensus. We will not withhold our approval of her by consensus. Her CV reveals a person of considerable experience, having served as a judge from the High Court to the Court of Appeal and ultimately at the Supreme Court. Women who have acquitted themselves should be given opportunities to occupy key national offices. Even as we disagree with her jurisprudence, we find her qualified to occupy the high office of Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. The image of the judiciary is not in a good shape. Several opinion polls show that, so we are not saying it. We hope that Justice Gertrude Araba, as a Lady Chief Justice, will restore the dignity of the judiciary.
Okay, so that's Mahama Ayarga, who is the minorities member of the Appointments Committee and also a Boko Central Member of Parliament. I'll put it on record as well that he is a private legal practitioner as well. But thankfully, we have another private legal practitioner who is also a Member of Parliament and, in fact, a ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Chair, that's Affairs Committee of Parliament. In fact, the Deputy Ranking Member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament, the Honourable Francis Xavier Soso is joining us on the telephone. Honorable, I thank you so much for your time on Hot Edition. Now, first off, we've just heard from your colleague. The position is that you're not going to hold back your approval of her nomination. I'm talking about Justice Gertrude Tukono's nomination as Chief Justice, even though you disagree with her position on the James Jachekwesen case. Can you explain that particular position that you espoused earlier today?
Thank you very much, Alfred Ocansey, and a very good evening to your cherished listeners, and a very good evening to the people of Medina, and a good evening to all Ghanaians and all those who love rule of law, who love due process, and who want to improve justice delivery in Ghana. Now, let me say that the office of the Chief Justice is not only judicial, it's also administrative. And for that matter, when you are vetting a prospective Chief Justice, whilst you are looking at her records in terms of her judgment and her reasoning, her school of thought and judicial philosophies and all that, you are also looking at her capacity to administer the entire organ of government, such as the judiciary. And obviously, sitting through the vetting myself and listening to her respond to various questions that were posed to her, it's obvious that she has the requisite capacity, the knowledge, and the ability to run that high office. And I am confident that she even has the capacity to lift high the high office of the Chief Justice and bring back the glory to that office that he said we did not have. And so, yes, we are giving her our full support to become a Chief Justice, but our position is that very, very, very respectfully, we disagree with the reasoning in the Jachekwesen case, because we believe that a different approach to interpreting the Constitution would have given us a different output, which would have advanced, in my opinion, the rule of law, constitutional democracy, and would have also upheld the right of people of Asin North to representation. Unfortunately, I think that the position taken by the Supreme Court rather defeated what we think should be the appropriate position, and that's why we disagree with her reasoning.
I see. Now, if you say that a different approach could have been taken, and this matter I know went through various courts, right, from the High Court and then the Supreme Court also now putting their final verdict on the matter. Are you saying all through the process this particular position that you're espousing was not considered?
Well, I think that let's put these matters in the proper perspective. What the Supreme Court was called upon to interpret was Article 94 2E. Now, that article deals specifically with members of Parliament, because the language is very clear that a person, let me wait for the benefit of our listeners, Article 94 2 provides that a person shall not be qualified to be a member of Parliament if A, he owes allegiance to a country other than Ghana. The question here is a member of Parliament. That's a critical question. A person shall not be qualified to be a member of Parliament. At what point is a person a member of Parliament? Taking of nomination doesn't make you a member of Parliament. Filing your nomination doesn't make you a member of Parliament. In fact, contesting, in fact, even when you are elected, you are called members of Parliament elect. So it doesn't even make you a member of Parliament. It is when the oath of MPs is administered unto you, that is where, by law, you are recognized as a member of Parliament. So Article 94 2A is very clear. It relates to member of Parliament, not prospective member of Parliament or parliamentary candidate or future members of Parliament. To that extent, the owing of allegiance, the critical point where owing of allegiance become an issue is at the time that you are taking an oath. So that when you take that oath and say that your allegiance is only to Ghana, and yet you owe allegiance to another person, then it becomes a basis of invalidating your MPship.
Mm-hmm.
And this position is very clear and consistent with Section 20 of the Representation of the People's Act, PNDC Law 284.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it very clear. You see, in PNDC Law 284, it relates to the condition under which the High Court can annul or cancel your election as a member of Parliament. And it's very clear for the purpose of our listeners. It says that a person, if the court is satisfied that the candidate was at the time of his election, not qualified. At the time of his election. So even when you use by a canon of interpretation known as a Specialia Generalibus Derogant rule, what that means is that where you have a general rule as it pertains in Article 94 of the Constitution, and you have a special rule in another piece of legislation that gives you an idea of when the critical timeline will be, then the special provision must prevail. So even if you are not going to take the time of oath taking, then you should have taken the time of election. At the time the person was elected, was he still holding allegiance to another country? And when you look at the facts are very clear that with respect to Jechi question, by 26 November 2020, he had already received the certificate of renunciation. In fact, it was based on that on the 27th of November 2020, the EC, which is an independent institution that runs and regulates elections, actually cleared him to contest. So at the time that he was elected on the 7th of December 2020, and the time he was sworn into office on the 7th January 2021, he did not owe allegiance to any country. And this interpretation is what accords with the purpose behind Article 94 of the Constitution.
I see. But then if you look through the Supreme Court's decision, and I'm sure that this 35-page ruling is something that all of you lawyers, especially in the minority, have spent some time taking a look at quite closely. And I look at that plus, and I go back into history and what happened in the Papa Kwesi Nduom case, for instance. Now, in this particular ruling, the 7 judges who sat on this matter made reference to the Zanetor Rawlings case. But then again, if you look at the basis and analysis of their ruling, that as against what happened in the Papa Kwesi Nduom case, which two of them supports this argument that you're making, Lawyer Susu?
Well, the fact is that when you look at the Zanetor Rawlings case, which basically was heavily relied upon by the Supreme Court, but this case can clearly be distinguished. It can be distinguished because this case was, with respect to Article 94(1), of the Constitution. This is Article 94 2A. So these are two separate provisions of the Constitution. Secondly, Zanetor Rawlings had to do with her eligibility at the time. That time she was not an elected member of Parliament. It was her eligibility, and it bordered on whether whether she had actually she was a registered voter at the time that she was filing to contest for parliamentary primaries. And the argument that came over there was the fact that the critical time for determining that eligibility should have been at the time that they are filing for nomination. And so the Supreme Court relied on the fact that once eligibility was, the Zaneto Rawlings decision is determined at the time of filing nomination, that should apply to Gyekye Quayson. But Gyekye Quayson's case is quite separate. He is an elected member of parliament. So the critical question really is, at the time that he was elected and at the time that he was sworn into office, did he owe allegiance to any country? The answer is no.
But if you look at Article 94.2a that they relied on, in fact, I know that the likes of Professor Kwekwaza and then also another member of parliament, they are seeking a review of this particular provision in the Constitution, that Parliament takes a critical look at that as well. And I know that the Council of State has given its blessing. The flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, former president, has also given some indication that this is something they're going to take a critical look at eventually if you should win power, that Article 94.2a should be reviewed, that a person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament if he owes allegiance to a country other than Ghana. So is this something that beyond this ruling you are going to also lend your support to, that this particular provision in the Constitution should be reviewed going forward?
Absolutely, because it's completely unfair to have this provision here. And not only is it unfair, it's also very, very discriminatory. It's just like what has just happened in the case of Gyekye Quayson. How do you even determine allegiance? How do you determine allegiance? It's like it's like gauging your level of faith or belief in something. How do I gauge your faith and believe in Christ, like in believing like Almighty Allah or the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I mean, how do you gauge allegiance? How do you gauge? So for me, I think that if you go back and look at histories of allegiance, these are things that were inherited from colonial masters' days, like where you have to atone allegiance to the crown and things like that. But in reality, it's completely an irrelevant provision, if you ask me, and I really will lend my support to the review of this provision.
And finally, before I let you go, you're saying that you're hoping that Justice Getu Tukono, if eventually approved and appointed to the high office of Chief Justice, will restore the lost dignity of that office. I mean, what do you mean? Are you saying that the Chief Justice, the office of the Chief Justice, has lost its dignity until Getu Tukono's arrival?
Well, I think that we have dealt with the substantive matters, and so I would rather we end here. I am confident that Justice Tukono is going to do well. She's going to definitely clean up the judiciary. She is going to work very hard to ensure that, the public trust that is broken in the judiciary, the loss of confidence in the judiciary generally, which is backed by several researches across board, will be restored. And all of us will work very hard to support her to attain that. That is what we commit to, and that is what I commit to.
Lawyer Francis Xavier Soso, I thank you for your time, and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
Francis Xavier Soso is Member of Parliament for the Medina constituency. He is a private legal practitioner. He's actually a member of the Appointments Committee of Parliament and the Deputy ranking on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. Stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Mama Yarga also shared his thoughts on the ruling of the Supreme Court on the James Gyekye Quayson case, and reason why, even though they disagree with the details of the ruling as released yesterday, they are still giving their support to the Chief Justice nominee.
Now, the reason why I disagree with the Supreme Court is that the Supreme Court is making law. And I say making law in the sense that you are asked to interpret a specific provision of the Constitution. A provision that says a person is not qualified to be a member of parliament if the person owes allegiance to another country. The question is not saying you should determine eligibility to file nominations to contest elections to be a member of parliament. It is to determine whether a person owes allegiance or not for the purposes of being a member of parliament. So your gatekeeping responsibility as a Supreme Court is after the person has gone through all the processes and is going to be sworn in as a member of parliament. Then you ask the question, do you owe allegiance to another country? No. If at the time of being sworn in as a member of parliament, you owe allegiance to another country, then you are caught squarely by Article 94 Clause 2A of the Constitution. Even if at the point of being sworn in, you owe allegiance only to the Republic of Ghana. But after being sworn in as a member of parliament, you go to acquire the citizenship of another country, and then you now owe allegiance to another country in addition to Ghana. At that point, you also stand unqualified to be a member of parliament, not to contest for elections.
Well, so that's Mama Yarga there speaking to me on Ghana Tonight earlier. But this is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's stay with Parliament, because the NDC MPs who lost their positions, about 17 of them in the party primaries, are forging ahead to ensure elected candidates retain the seats in the December 7, 2024 election. They will miss parliamentary proceedings after 2024 because, as we've seen, they are not going to contest on the ticket of the party going into the 2024 general elections. They've lost the primaries. But they believe that it is time for others to serve the people in the constituency, although some of them admit that they were shocked by the outcome of the primaries because they were very confident they were going to retain their position to, as it were, contest on the ticket of the party in 2024, but they've had to accept the hard reality that they are not coming back to parliament in 2025. Christian Otute is member of parliament for Sige. Kojo Nyampong Abuaje is outgoing member of parliament for the Biakoye constituency. Also, you have the likes of Albert Alazuga, who's a member of parliament for the Garu constituency. I all spoke to my colleague, our parliamentary correspondent, Komla Kluche and Evelyn Tengma, who spoke to them earlier today about how they're going to approach these sittings in parliament ahead of 2024.
I can't say there was a problem. I simply lost, and I lost to an NDC candidate who I know is fine. I'm going to support him to retain the seat in my absence. We are not going to give that seat out for our opponent MPP.
This is my second term. I was attempting to go for the third term, but I lost. The opponent was able to convince the people better. Me, I'm a technocrat, so I was thinking of projects and so on. So maybe my communication was not good enough. But as for work, I really worked, you see, and providing essential amenities for the people. So I really worked. Some of us, when we are working, we keep our heads down and work. We don't talk. And so maybe the constituents did not hear me well. All right, that's it. Oh, I'm very mature. Because it didn't take me more than 10 minutes to get over it.
Yeah, by the grace of God, I've been in Parliament. This is my second term. But prior to coming to Parliament, I was the District Chief Executive for Garu Tempani district, which is now split into 2 districts. So I had the privilege to serve the people of Garu if by the grace of God I complete this term, 12 years. And for me, I'm grateful to the people of Garu and to God Almighty for the opportunity to serve. Yes, yeah, thank you very much. Yes, in every competition, if you are unable to go through or make it, you might not feel happy. But that is part of life. Because the point is that it's a competition, and when you are going to any competition, whether political or in sports or any other arena, you should prepare for.
So those were some of the members of parliament who have lost their ticket to contest on the ticket of the NDC going into the 2024 general elections there, expressing their own hope that the party will retain the seat even without them. But before we leave Parliament, the Member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency, Sam George Nete, has disclosed that the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagwin's official SIM card has been deactivated despite undergoing the SIM registration exercise in Parliament. Now, over 8 million unregistered SIM cards were deactivated by the various telecommunication firms after the May 31 deadline announced by the government for the registration exercise. Although the Minister for Communications, Eslo Sekufo, has been scheduled to appear before Parliament on Thursday, that is June 8th, to apprise legislators on the exercise, Sam George stressed the need for the minister to appear on time to address concerns raised regarding the process. He's quoted as saying that over 8 million SIM cards have been disconnected, including that of the Speaker of Parliament. His official SIM card has been disconnected, even though it was registered in the name of the Parliament of Ghana. And he says, Sam George also says that his SIM card has also been disconnected. And that is something that he says is going to be asking the communications minister when she appears before the House on Thursday. It's some 28 minutes after 5. It's something that we're keeping a close eye on as well. We definitely will be updating you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, the chief of Sejimase, Berima Okurubi, Botio Dankwa I, has called on government to, as a matter of urgency, increase its collaboration with local authorities to fight illegal mining. He was speaking during a visit to the Etiwa forest by some international and local journalists who are pushing for the forest to be protected, and there's increasing illegal mining that is degrading the forest cover in the Etiwa forest. And this is what the chief had to say.
I will never challenge my king, or I will never let what he have said down. Of course, some of them, but the thing is, you are there, you are at your palace, and someone will come with some note or paper that I'm from this, I'm from where, I'm from. In fact, as for me, a lot of people are doing their work. Meanwhile, I don't know anything about it. Because the person will tell you, I went to the concession, is this concession or whatever? Concession. And they bring this all, what do you call, the confusion between the chiefs and then the government officials. And it's not nice. In fact, if you are from government and you are a government official, there is no mistake for you to come to the palace and then narrated everything to the chief that I'm coming to do this or that. But all of a sudden you see that the person is work ongoing. What are you going to tell them? I'm not here to speak to other chiefs. I'm here to tell you that me, Berima Okupibo to Dankwa, they always bypass me. I don't know anything. I know one person, concessionaire, called Hansen, and even though he is the one, at times he called me and told me, Nana, I'm finding some place for somebody. But even that concessionaire, I'm always fighting with him because the community people, we need something, and you don't want to do it. We don't benefit anything. That's why I'm always saying when we meet with my community members, we call it Omansam. At times we used to, if somebody wants to say something, we call the person and come and give advice and give motivation and talk about what is going on so that you all share one idea.
So that's the chief of Sejimase. That's the community where the Etiwa forest is located. Berima Okurubi Bochio Dankwa the first there. Let's go on to the telephone now, and thankfully we're being joined by Awula Sewa, is a founder and coordinator of the Eco-Conscious Citizens Ghana. He's joining us. Awula, thank you for joining us on Hot Edition. Now, you've just heard the chief there. If they are giving further control in the fight against illegal mining, is it going to make any significant difference from what we're seeing now?
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. I'm sort of trying to understand what further powers the chiefs are looking for to enable them to safeguard the land, the area. So that is where my area of confusion is. What further powers do they want?
In fact, when we spoke to him, he says that sometimes they're there, and some people come with what is said, the concessions, the certificate to enter the forest. That's the forest entry permits given by the Forestry Commission without their knowledge. That's number one.
But we know that cannot happen lawfully. There are supposed to be systems in place before any concessions are given. There are supposed to be consultations taking place so that the people in the landscape are aware and they can object. So that there's also supposed to be an impact assessment. So it can't just sit down at Minerals Commission and issue licenses. I'm sure the chiefs are aware of all this. These things are not being done properly. It's not a question of, in this particular instance, more powers, but it's a question of ensuring that the proper thing is done. They have avenues to voice the fact that this is not being done properly, and therefore we cannot allow anybody to go in because we don't know anything about this license. For all you know, the person published it in his own bedroom. So I think that what the chief needs to do in the first instance is to ensure that the law is taking its course and the proper thing is being done. No licenses should be issued without an impact assessment and without the people in the landscape being consulted, especially the chiefs. It is totally disrespectful not to let the chiefs be aware of it.
In fact, and in this case, so what does he do? And that's the question he was asking, that if somebody shows up with all these documents, he comes and says government has given him access. So for him as a chief, he can do little or nothing, even though they see the people in the forest.
You know, I remember a while back, you would help jog my memory. Somebody went to a radio station and made some comments some chiefs didn't like. And we heard that he had been banned from the landscape. I don't know if you recall.
Yeah, this is in the Ashanti region. Yes. That is Odike, Akosia Dai Odike, who made that comment.
What I'm saying is that somebody comes holding some piece of paper. You don't go by it. You prevent them from entering the landscape until you've got verification. And this is not is null and void because you were not consulted. And what would the additional powers be? For me, what needs to happen is that, those who are entering the landscape, the excavators, they can't just enter. It's not like it's a pencil that you carry with you. So there needs to be a kind of cordon. When people are entering, the chiefs need to stop them. And maybe there can be numbers where individual patrols can call and say, like, look, these people are entering the area. We don't know anything about it, and stop them from coming. Because that's the only way, in my view, we can begin to get some sanity. But the chiefs have to, whether they have to march to Jubilee House, I don't know. But they do need to send a very clear message that you cannot issue concessions when they have been bypassed. It's totally wrong.
I see. Now, but if you take a cue from what Otumfo said to the second said, the chiefs themselves cannot be excluded from the accountability with respect to this illegal mining matter. For him saying that he knows for sure that a number of the chiefs are also complicit in this illegal mining cases.
That goes without saying. The galamsey, or that is, if I would even call it galamsey, because galamsey, the traditional galamsey, used hand tools, ham and gather. So what we are seeing now, I wouldn't even call it galamsey. I'll call it criminality on a large scale. So you find these persons coming, and yes, some of the chiefs are complicit. So there are two scenarios going on. There may be some chiefs who don't know what is going on, and then these persons who have been issued licenses or not just come into their area and start doing their business. Then there's the other case where the chiefs themselves are complicit. So we eco-conscious citizens have launched Chiefs Against Galamsey. And we are saying that the chiefs who are truly against Galamsey should stand up and be counted. We can share ideas about how to combat this menace, which is destroying the country. In fact, what is happening is that we have environmental terrorists. So it's terrorism that is going on, domestic terrorism, where they are destroying the landscape and poisoning all of us because we are all involved in what is going on. Or what I'm trying to say, we'll all suffer from the consequences of what is going on. So the chiefs who are involved, I guess their subjects need to see how they can be bestooled. And then those who say that they need more powers, they need to voice their, make their concerns heard that you cannot issue licenses without consulting them. And if you have purported to do so, those licenses are null and void and will not allow those persons to come to our landscape and destroy it. And those who are involved in Galamsey or accomplices, we need to find a way of ensuring that they lose their positions as chiefs. Because the chiefs are supposed to be looking after the land for the people. They're not supposed to be complicit in destruction.
Now, on a day like this, that we just saw the details of this Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative report, which was launched today. I mean, your organization took together with about 21 others. You're demanding specific actions be taken by government to protect the environment. What are those, please?
Yeah, what it is that eco-conscious citizens, together with public-spirited persons and environmentalists, 200 persons, over 200 individuals and organizations signed the petition. What we are saying is that there must be a seriousness in what is going on. Number one, we want the government to revoke Executive Instrument 144, the Forest Cessation of Forest Reserve Instrument, where portions of Achimota Forest Reserve were removed from Achimota Forest Reserve. That has to be revoked. You cannot be serious about our forest. If you are, what shall I say, destroying parts of the forest, we need to keep our existing forest. And then we are also saying that there must be a pause on community mining. What the chiefs are saying, some of them are not even aware of what is going on. And even in the cases where they are aware, we cannot even monitor the big mining companies. When you have so many community mining operators, we can't monitor them. Our monitoring regime is weak. And a lot of the time, they're causing the same damage as the Galamseyers are. So we are saying there should be a pause. And we had representatives from various areas, Seshria Tronsu and others, who are saying that we do not want community mining. Look at the polluted water bodies we have. In Seshria Tronsu, for instance, they have the beautiful Atronsu stream. They don't want it to be polluted by community mining. We're also saying, and this is very, very important, we need LI 2462 to be revoked. I'm not sure if you're aware that in November 2020, this perverse legislation was passed, which not only makes it easier to mine in forest reserves, but actually has Section 3.2, which says that you can even mine in globally significant biodiversity areas. And mind you, Atiwa Forest is a globally significant biodiversity area. You can even mine there if the president believes it to be in the national interest. How can that be? How can that be? So we know that the government itself is not particularly serious about preserving our forests. And then we are saying that you must hold the directors of Akonta Mining accountable. They are alleged to have destroyed portions of the Kano Nimiri Forest Reserve. What is happening to them? The investigations have gone on for long enough. There need to be prosecutions. And then Joy News did a wonderful documentary, Gold for Destruction. We saw persons in military uniform protecting illegal miners. What is happening to the documentary? Has there been any investigations to bring the culprits to book? And then we want an independent public inquiry into Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. And we are saying develop the green economy. The idea that it's only by mining that we can make money is laughable. We can make billions from the green economy. And then lastly, we have to really look at the cost of mining. We heard the land minister say that, about $1.2 billion was brought in from small-scale mining. Have we looked at the cost of small-scale mining What about the farmers who lose their livelihood? We claim to respect farmers. A lot of cocoa farmers are losing their livelihood as a consequence of community mining. We have concerns about water security, where water companies telling us that soon they might not be able to purify the water. It's becoming more and more expensive, and we might have to import water. There are food security concerns. Our landscape is being poisoned. Our water bodies are being poisoned. In the Galamsey area, there's a rise of breast deformities, kidney disease, and so on and so forth. How can we then say that so much money was brought in from small-scale mining when we have not looked at the cost? And then also, when you're reclaiming the land, when you're planting a mahogany tree or any tree that's been destroyed, it takes a very long time. It's not a weed that grows in no time. So I think we need to do the real accounts and look at the real cost of mining. And then we'll see that it's like we're being penny wise and pound foolish. Whatever we are getting cannot compare to what we are losing, even in terms of our health.
Awula, I thank you so much for this, and we can only wish you all the best, and for us as media, also continue to amplify these so that we get the needed support going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And without the media, we will not be where we are. So we thank the media. We want you to continue, be relentless until we get the results we need to get.
Appreciate your time. Have a good one. That's Awula Sewa, is founder and coordinator of the Eco-Conscious Citizens Ghana. Meanwhile, the Minister for Water Resources and Sanitation, Cecilia Benadapa, has expressed shock after seeing some illegal miners operating on the Pra River in spite of the efforts by government to stop the activity. She laments that from what they've seen, the future is bleak for Ghana's water resources sector, and that's something that many bodies have been talking about. Currently, laboratory analysis by the Ghana Water Company Limited shows very high turbidity and color values. The minister was on a working tour of the Daboase treatment plant of the Ghana Water Company Limited in the Western region.
River bodies, undoubtedly, it's very bleak. If we continue like that, 10 o'clock in the morning, they are on our river body, the mighty River Pra, doing Galamsey with champagne. We've all seen it. And that is the reason why we all say that we need to fight this and win this war. All these people have every right to mine, but legally. We are not saying nobody should earn a living. They should leave the river bodies alone. Now we have contracted a loan to revamp this system, water system, and do a new, bigger one. And it's the same Pra that will give us the raw water. If we maltreat it, muddy it, where are we going? Does it mean we should allow a few people, because of lining their pockets, to do this to our river bodies and our land, and then sit down unconcerned? We appeal to that they should stop. They should go and register legally and do legal surface mining. That will be good for them and this country. This is totally unacceptable.
Well, that's the Minister for Water Resources and Sanitation, Cecilia Benadapa, there, giving details. Now, before I go for business, the National Peace Council says it is taking a proactive step in mediating a peace agreement between the Nogokpo traditional authorities and the Archbishop Charles Ajanasari, the founder of Prayer Chapel International. This decision comes in response to a growing conflict between the Nogokpo community and the Archbishop Charles Ajanasari, triggered by remarks made by the Archbishop during a sermon where he referred to the Nogokpo community as the demonic headquarters of the Volta region. The comments made by the revered Archbishop drew criticism from the indigents of Nogokpo and the wider Volta region. The Reverend Archbishop Ajanasari rendered an apology for his comment, but that did not stop the Nogokpo Traditional Council from issuing a 2-week ultimatum to the Archbishop to appear before them. In a statement earlier today, the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edujemfi, said the National Peace Council has noted with concern the current impasse between the Archbishop Charles Ajanasari and the founder of the Prayer Chapel International and the Nogokpo Traditional Authorities. It added, recognizing the fact that the impasse, if not quickly addressed, may have consequences on peaceful coexistence and religious tolerance in the country. The National Peace Council, in pursuit of its mandate to facilitate conflict prevention, appeals to the Nogokbo community and traditional authorities and the Press Shop International to remain calm and not give in to provocations as efforts are being undertaken to address the situation. So that's what's coming through now, and let's go into business now. And Michael Bodu is here with the details. Mickey, what's happening?
Hello there. Now coming up, PIAC boss Dr. Steve Mantea calls for transparency in government's gold for oil deal, asking for disclosures on gold and petroleum products purchased. Good evening and welcome to the Business News on Hot Edition. My name is Michael Obodu, and to details of our stories now, as policy analyst and former boss of PIAC, Dr. Steve Mantea is calling for more transparency in government's gold for oil deal. He questioned government's disclosure on the gold purchases, sales and procurement of petroleum products of the Gold for Oil program. Speaking on the sidelines of the launch of the Gaiti report, he said government should come out with a comprehensive policy document that will serve the national interest.
Who is selling Ghanaia's gold on the international market? If it's a broker, then the broker services has to be disclosed and the terms. How much is the broker being paid, okay, for his services? And how does it affect what we receive as a country in terms of returns? Now, you go onto the international market, you use the proceeds from your gold sales to buy petroleum products. How are you procuring your petroleum products? Is it at a spot price? Is it at a hedge price? What is the terms under which you are procuring your petroleum products? There is no disclosure. So you find that at three critical points. First, the gold purchases by PMMC, there is no transparency. In terms of the gold sales, who is buying or helping Ghana to sell its gold, there is no transparency, no disclosures. And how is Ghana procuring its petroleum products? Again, we don't know. And at what cost? At what cost are those facilitating these transactions, okay, in what do you call it, imposing on the total gold for oil program? All these things have to be disclosed for us to be able to hold our duty bearers to account.
So you heard the former boss of PIAC, Dr. Steve Mantea. Now, away from that, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has called on government to scrap the Forex Convention that slaps duties on imported materials for printing of textbooks. The Chief Executive Officer of AGI, Seth Chuma, said the convention, however, allows imported textbooks duty-free access, a situation that is killing local industries. He was speaking at the West African Packaging and Printing Exhibition Fair in Accra.
Unfortunately, because this law is there, when you import raw materials to print, you pay duty on it. But when you import the finished product, you don't pay duty on it. What does it mean? It means that it makes the local printing more expensive than importation. And it's the reason why even when you go to some of our government institutions, a lot of their printing, they are bringing it from outside. Private sector, same. Our calendars, our books, so many things is printed from outside instead of looking at local production. So we think that this kind of policy is not helping local producers. And AGI has been talking about it for a very long time. I think that it's about time we change some of these laws. Some of the countries we signed this convention with have changed it long ago. We should do the same.
You heard the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Seth Chuma. Let's stay a while longer with currency-related issues, as Ghana's forex reserves may increase following a signed memorandum of understanding between industry players in the Caribbean and Ghana. This follows Ghana's inadequate forex reserves that has caused the city to suffer depreciation recently. Now, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, spoke to 3 Business.
Take advantage of this relationship, we are going to be the beneficiaries, because it means that we are going to export more to that corridor. Because visiting there, you see that most of the things that they use, because of culture, we are all aligned in culture. Most of the things that we use, they also use there, and we produce them. And so it is very good opportunity for us to reach out to this corridor, especially when they are one of our own, to maximize our lots. It's going to open more doors for us to boost our industrialization drive, and our export earnings will also go up.
That was President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph. You heard the President of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, Guta, Dr. Joseph Oping. Now let's talk about fuel, as the energy consultant, Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, has indicated that the announcement of a cut in oil production by OPEC Plus is very unlikely to lead to a spike in the price of the commodity globally. Prices at the pumps locally have been relatively stable over the last couple of weeks, and Dr. Sulemana believes this is likely to be sustained despite the move by the leading oil producing companies.
Actual fiscal hasn't trickled into the market to have that substantial impact to balance supply-demand dynamics. No, it will likely go into the market maybe in the coming weeks or months. But what we saw that happened yesterday was just an instantaneous response. But after that, I believe the market will absorb that. And so what I rather believe will have much impact on the market as we go forward will be China consumption. And as we speak now, I think it's not that they are not doing that much well in terms of their factories. If you look at the data that is churning out from China manufacturing sector, it's not something that is very encouraging. And whenever this kind of trend is moving in China, where the demand, manufacturing sector is not buoyant, then the cascading impact on the market is always huge in terms of effect on oil demand.
You hear the energy consultant, Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, bringing an end to business news on Hot Edition. My name is Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. Let's start from the chairman of the Black Meteors, and that is Frederick Echampon. He has confirmed that Black Stars winger Kamaldeen Sulemana may be included in the list for the Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations that will be coming up later in Morocco. Ghana are locked up in Group A with host Morocco, Congo, and Guinea in an attempt to have a very solid squad that will combine with the 22-man local list that has already been assembled by coach Ibrahim Tanko. Freddy Champon says that Kamaldeen Sulemana, Enes Nyama, and other players may be considered for the list. Now, Real Madrid's Ballon d'Or winner Karim Benzema has signed for Saudi Arabia's Al Ittihad for 3 years, started next season. A source in the Jeddah-based club revealed to AFP Benzema has signed a contract for his transfer and Al Ittihad for a club with a period lasting for 3 years. Let's move on to England, where Tottenham Hotspur have appointed former Celtic boss Ange Postecoglou as their new head coach on a 4-year deal. Michael Dawson believes this is the best person to lead the team in these times.
Very happy to get Ange Postecoglou in the door, and he can start work straight away, because that's something he does and does very well. His recruitment, his desire, his commitment. And I tell you what, he went into Celtic when probably people questioned working in Australia, working in Japan. What was he going to be like up in Scotland? Well, he took it by storm. He really, really did. And he's got the recognition, and now he's got his chance in the big time, as you can say, the Premier League. I always say it's the best league in the world in my...
So that is from Michael Dawson. Let's move away from that, and that is Football Federation has extended a contract of coach Kasper Heumann despite the disappointing group stage as it at the 2022 World Cup. The coach penned a deal until the 2026 World Cup in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Now to some Grand Slam news, and 22 times champion Novak Djokovic is now 2 wins away from all-time men's singles record of 23 majors after beating Karen Khachanov 4-6, 7-6, 6-2, 6-4. He'll be waiting for the winner of the Carlos Alcaraz Stefano Tsitsipas game later, and Arina Sabalenka has yet to drop a set en route to her first semi-final in Paris, defeating Alina Svitolina 6-4, 6-4. There is also another victory for Karolina Mukova, who claimed her second Grand Slam semi-final berth with a win against Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova at the French Open. Let's have a quick listen to Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova on that particular loss.
Yeah, I think today I played great from the start of both sets, and that for sure helped. As well, I started well the sets, and then I finished them well as well. So yeah, I'm pleased about that, and great that when I compare it to those before, I feel great now. I think that I played last few matches were just 2 sets. That for sure helped to save some energy. Yeah, now I have a day off tomorrow, so I feel pretty good.
Well, that'll be all for sports. Akofa brings you entertainment.
Thank you very much, Kelvin. Now, coming up on entertainment news tonight, wife of Ghanaian Afro dancehall star Stonebwoy, Dr. Louisa Satekler, has said marrying the top musician is one of the best things to have happened to her. According to her, she knew that Stonebwoy was going to help her achieve her goals, hence the decision to move on with him.
Yes, I'll tell you, even when I was in school, like these are some of the little things that, tell you a lot about the person. When I was in school and, I'm studying for exams and things like that, he works a lot at night too. They are always in the studio and stuff. And he knows maybe I'm studying, I'm staying up to study. He stays up with me, keeps calling, are you still awake? He would actually quiz you about what you learned to make sure that you weren't dozing off. Those kind of little things, That's sweet. Yeah, imagine he'll say, okay, send me the slides you were reading. He'll go through and he'll ask you a question on slide maybe 25.
But did he even understand what he was reading?
No, but at the same time, he was, putting me on my toes to make sure that I know I'm going to be quizzed, so I better read and understand this thing. So those kind of little things were all green flags.
Moving on to some more stories now. Following her plea for a decent accommodation, the CEO of Idroye Herbal Center, Dr. Collins Amo, has come to the aid of 29-year-old Irene Tete, a physically challenged lady who was on the Date Rush reality show. Now, when Irene appeared on the show to look for love, she seized the opportunity to seek for help as well.
Oh, you're currently staying somewhere you rent?
Yes, I stay alone for good 10 years.
Huh?
Yes, so I'm celebrating my 10 years experience.
You've been alone?
Alone for 10 years.
Rented a space?
Alone.
For 10 years?
For good 10 years. If someone could rent me an accommodation, because where I am, when it is rain, I can't go out to my shop.
One of our sponsors, Dr. Collins Amo, CEO of Idroye Herbal Center, producers of Obuasi Bitters, has donated 10,000 Ghana cedis to Irene to get her a new apartment.
The client watched the show and so called in to help her get a decent place for her. We are here to pay an advance of 2 years for Irene to give her peace of mind, at least for her basic needs, which is shelter.
All I have to say that God really, really bless you for put happiness in my life once again. I say thank you. Wherever you people take this money from, may God place it back for you. And may God bless whatever you people would touch.
And to wrap up, organizers of Africa's Premier Music Awards, Global Music Award Africa, have released a full list of nominees of the various categories for the third edition of the awards. Organizers say the categories released consist of huge acts who have been making great impact with their craft, also becoming the public's favorite. This year's edition will be hosted in South Africa prior to previous editions, which was held in Ghana and Nigeria. This year's event has received entries from over 15 African countries, with Nigeria acquiring the most nominations, followed by South Africa, Ghana, Tanzania, among others. Now, the ultimate title, Global Artist of the Year, has 10 nominees battling it out. Burna Boy from Nigeria, I've got Wizkid also from Nigeria, Ashake Nigeria, Black Sherry from Ghana, Diamond Platinums from Tanzania, Msaki from South Africa, Kiss Daniel from Nigeria, Diamond Platinums, I've already mentioned that, and Thames, also Rima as well. Now, that will be the entertainment news here on Hot Edition, powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Thank you for your time, Alfred.
You're back at 8 o'clock.
I am back at 8:30 after keeping it real.
Today is keeping it real.
Yes.
Have
you seen the conversation that's going to be had?
Tell me about it.
It has to do with oral sex.
Okay, well, you know what? Bye. Bye.
It's a wild conversation. That's all I'm saying.
Bye. Bye-bye. Oh, Lord. Anyway, make a date with the girls that's at 8 p.m. and then also at 8:30. A cover comes your way with Wind Down. Thank you so much for staying with us. Join me at 10 p.m. on Ghana Tonight on TV3. But the drive continues on 3FM 92.7. On behalf of the rest of the team, we appreciate your company. As always, Giovanni, AJ Sapong, and DJ Faculty continue with the drive. Have a good evening.